Hello everyone, welcome to a new video. What a weekend we've had with the markets. I haven't been able to fully follow them, just some quick checks on the phone because I've been outside the city. Boy, everything looked ready to pop. We talked about the total 3, which has been one of the the charts that has really broken with strength. But let's start with BTC. And first of all, we're gonna see the weekly, which again is my main time frame. So far, everything looks good. We didn't even have the potential retest as we did in summer, which, by the way, this is just again my interpretation. But this huge correction, right, it was way longer than this. I think this was like 4 months, and this was 8. It was longer also because of the summer. The summer normally is slower for stocks, and considering the impact of stocks on ETFs, BTC, that could be one of the reasons. But also because we reached very high levels in a very close distance. For example, this was December, and then like 3 months or 4 months later, we had another big overheated level, right? First it was 82, then 87 on the weekly, very high levels. The daily as well, many altcoins really ran hot, and they pushed higher. I still remember Pepe pushing the markets, like I think it was like an 8x in 5 weeks, something like that, crazy numbers. And this time we didn't even get to 80 RSI in the weekly. So I believe that's one of the reasons this correction was smaller. And at the same time, it fully reset. We had a way longer chop period here in summer, right? But here we found our bottom, and now we had the breakout, no retest, just simple continuation, pretty much like we did in October 23, which was one of the reasons, together with the vertical accumulation, one of the reasons that I said to study October 2023. Everything's going well. In fact, it seems like this is the no time for big pullback season, right? As you have seen in one of my posts recently, this potential push, pullback hasn't really happened. It's been pretty much flat sideways correction so far. We're gonna see better on the daily, and it's been huge. And I also posted that if you remove the wicks, right, because this can be deceiving, you can see what BTC is doing. It is pretty much at all-time high in terms of weekly close. Just let that sink for a moment, right? With a new impulse. I mean, this is just for the bears that think this was a dead cat bounce all the time. When are they gonna buy again? When BTC reaches all-time high and perhaps we start reaching overheated areas again? Are they the ones that are gonna push together with the futures, make futures drive the move instead of a spot, and the spot players start dumping on them, on those greedy late players? Is the same playbook gonna happen again? Probably, or possibly at least. But just take a look at how these weekly close look, how this new leg, since the very bottom that we talked about here at 76, something like that, perfect bottom. It's been in a tier since then. Tremendous development. And if we go back to our candles and we switch to the daily for a closer look, we see what I posted of our potential sideways correction. And some people might think, okay, this is about to roll. I got the same question here. I mean, is it going to reset? And I said that as long as 84 held, we were good, and it looked like it was holding and reclaiming silently the 200-day moving average. So these flat, I mean, and RSI wasn't really showing weakness, right? Like I did here. Like pretty much holding, trying to push, but weakness was building, even pushing higher, right? So we could enter again another sideward period, or just perhaps a repeat of this move, right? Let's say we are around here, RSI wise, we are here, right? In this kind of daily vertical accumulation, something similar here. And again, when we cross the 70 mark, 70 RSI, the biggest pushes happen. So we might see this getting a little overextended with no rest, perhaps a correction. Then we start building our first divergences, and we might see something like this again, perhaps without a double top. We end here and then roll over. But if we play a little bit with the fractals to see where that would or could land for BTC, let's say this is the fractal and this is the performance we're seeing now. Something like this would be, let me just try to adjust it. I think it would be something like this. Perhaps this is the leg. It could lead to, yes, I think this is the area. Okay, imagine this is the accumulation we have after this break, right? So we could have this leg until perhaps 31, 33, something like that, which is one of the key Fibonacci levels, right? I'm going to show it later on the weekly. So why not? And then we start seeing this kind of pattern again, right? But I don't like to anticipate. It's good to have some kind of potential reference. And as I said in a different video, once a coin enters in price discovery, all you can do is just, apart from obviously the oscillators, if you want to play around or have some targets in mind, you could draw some Fibonacci levels. How do you draw them? That's a good question that you could have in mind. Where do you place the Fibonacci level? I'm going to show you where I did in the weekly. But first, let's take a look at the weekly, and it looks wonderful, right? And when I decided to draw the Fibonacci previously, it was taking this big top on the bottom of the cycle, right, as reference. This would be 1 and this would be 0. I'm gonna extend it. 1 is the big top here in March, and 0 would be the bear market. Why this? Because I think this has been the most relevant top this cycle, and it's also the first all-time high top we've had this cycle. And when you draw this, you have that, you see that BTC has closed pretty much, or just got rejected at 1.236 Fibonacci, 106K, perfectly. So the first level above it, it's 138. So depending on how we get there, either it's a weekly or the monthly, I will start looking for perhaps some profit-taking area, right? Because even if the monthly looks good, that could mean that the weekly is reaching here, could be overheated. Yes, we can run later, let's say Q4, but we might have a weekly cycle correction again, 2, 3, 4 months, who knows? But a weekly cycle correction, the same way that a daily cycle correction could be, let's say, a few weeks. A weekly cycle could be a few months, right? So we could perhaps get here, chop around, and the correction brings BTC back to the previous top. And if that happens, the reaction here, printing a lower high, could reinforce the idea of a new monthly cycle, as RSI is suggesting with the bullish cross that we had recently. Otherwise, we could go to one. I think this is the top of this cycle. This Fibonacci level is normally huge, right? The same way here, golden ratio, golden pocket. It's really, really strong. So if we enter in somehow, I don't know, some kind of mania and blow off top move, this could really be the top. I don't care about any random targets that people throw, or especially 200k, 300k, 400, whatever. I mean, I don't care. Those are literally hopium now. There are no data, in my opinion, to support that. All I can say is the way the cycle has developed. I believe this top here, perfectly correction until the next Fibonacci level. You break, you get rejected at the next Fibonacci level and hold the previous one as support. So that makes me think that the top here, another kind of weekly wave with topping here and holding here, could be possible considering how the cycle has behaved. But if this is the last phase with pure euphoria and overextension like we did here, we could really push to 1.6. So that's something, the difference is huge, right, between those two Fibonacci levels. So that's something I will monitor together with oscillators and BTC dominance and USDT, something like that. All that combined is what I'm going to look at to decide, okay, perhaps it's here or even here. And again, if I find something that tells me be careful here weekly wise, I would leave that's my strategy. Again, don't take that as something you should do as well. But since I'm mostly on altcoins now, holding a potential weekly correction as we have seen for several months, you know what that could do to our altcoins. 30-50% like minimum, right? So I would rather leave some on the table, and if I see signs to enter back, I will do later. But I would rather do that than losing money again and then holding for weeks, not being sure if we will really have another push. But because imagine if that first scenario happened and we lost this, we might break a structure, right? Some people could say, well, perhaps if we retest 74, we can push back. But imagine what your altcoins could do. This was the top and we get back here. I mean, I'm sure BTC, that would be 44% move. Big correction, right? But so far we've seen like 30 and 30. So imagine we see something like that. That would be huge. If we only see this move, that would be like a 20%. Perhaps the next leg into the Q4, if we don't see a full blow of top move. Again, 20 or 40% for BTC could be pretty much death for our altcoins, and I would rather leave something on the table than having to climb back here, right? All this and pray for my altcoins to reach previous levels, because yes, trust me, next time I will sell. We had that situation and that feeling here, and we had it here as well. If we don't sell when we see weakness or overheating signs, again, it will only be our fault, right? So be careful with wishing more or thinking it's not enough because you want more, but the market is telling you this is all I'm giving you now. You either take it or round trip it again. It's up to you. Okay, so BTC is looking great. I don't care about the weekly moves, weekly oscillations, right? And not something daily or 4-hour oscillation, I mean. It's not something I'm paying attention to. And if we open the 4-hour chart to have a perspective of what's going on, what I see is the classic overheated move, something we've seen many times, right? Followed by a divergence here. And the thing is, so far, we've had sideways, impulse, sideways, kind of another premature push, as I said a few times, with another divergence, finding bottom here, holding the level. Pretty much this is a sideward move. We could be doing the same here, sideward moves. Stock RSI looks like it's ready, but perhaps we have some more chop, because 4-hour, as you can see, is way more choppy. Right now we are below the MA, which normally means acceleration, but so far it's just been like from 105 to barely 103, the mean rejected, chopping. As long as we hold 102.5, as I said, we are good. This is vertical accumulation. The bearish divergence is forming, and perhaps this is all we retrace. Perhaps another pushback here. I mean, it's Monday. Tomorrow, if stocks decide to push and we have new ETF inflows, we could push back again because, as I said, the daily looks good. Look at despite the correction, look at the week for now. I think it's good. We can just see this vertical accumulation to finally roll over, or simply keep pushing while building the bearish divergence. Right? The oscillators reset while price pushes because of open interest. So if I see some kind of weakness building here, I will check immediately the open interest charts and see if there's really many longs piling, and that's what's pushing the prices higher. But so far everything looks good. We have to be patient. If we open total 3, the daily, we had the breakout that I mentioned here. We were holding the March 24 support, and I said this would be attacked soon. We could have just pulled back here and fly back up. I mean, even if we retrace here, it's a decent retrace, but it could happen, right? It could really happen. Why not? We had something similar like in 2-3 days here back in November after the breakout, right? Breakout pretty much the same levels. We could retrace a little bit and then push higher. The thing is, we can already see that the daily could be signaling some cross here, but remember, we could also do this. It's tricky. We could be in this kind of choppy but overheated area while it keeps pushing. So again, I wouldn't try to outsmart the daily time frame, let alone the 4-hour. And I will just pay attention to the weekly. That looks wonderful. Clean break. The cross, still plenty of room here. So I don't care about daily moves. I don't really care at all. We need to break this. We got rejected perfectly here, which was expected. I mean, this first leg was really strong. A rejection here is expected for people who don't really believe or who just decide to take profit because they have good entries from the bottom, whatever. But this is my main reference for now. We are good to go. And as I say in the monthly, we are slightly crossing. So if we keep pushing, this would mean another cross to the upside. We'll look at the stock RSI really reset, as I said in the last video, at 2023 level, the first breakout. And if it keeps climbing, total 3, this looks like a new monthly move, right? We pair it with our dear friend BTC.Dominance, and you will see that perhaps this is signaling that BTC.Dominance could have just started the move that we were expecting. There might be some chop. Perhaps this is signaling that the rollover from BTC.Dominance on the monthly is just a few weeks ago. A few weeks away, right? But before getting there, I'm just gonna take a look at Ethereum BTC. Again, this bottom has been perfect bottom. A little bit front run even, but this was the range, not just the exact level. We had the cross of these oversold levels. I mean, really textbook behavior so far, quite predictable. And the breakout has been way more violent than anyone could expect, pretty much like here. And I said that this would depend on BTC.Dominance. Right? I compared in a different video what BTC.Dominance were doing when Ethereum BTC found its bottom. It started to top. So far, this huge breakout has coincided with BTC.Dominance rolling over a little bit. The difference here, that perhaps this is the time, this is the real bottom and not just some chop in still uptrend for BTC.Dominance and it's still a downtrend for Ethereum BTC. Perhaps this is the time of the cycle when Ethereum BTC, as I said, starts outperforming to just have a huge final outperforming period, while BTC.Dominance completely collapses and finds its new bottom. Something we should pay attention to. So now we move to BTC.Dominance, and what do we see? This is the original arc I said several times, I don't care if that's this, and eventually drops. I said this divergence was still playing, that this, this daily RSI that was pretty much the top of the cycle wasn't really broken yet. It was like a fake out here. But this divergence, this extended or even regular here, right, would eventually play out, right? This bounce is expected. I mean, look at the huge daily drop. It's been insane on stock RSI as well. A little bounce is expected, of course, but if we move to the 4-hour, I said, yes, look at this very overheated level, like a double bottom, pretty much a bullish divergence. A real bounce should happen. It was meant to happen. The thing is, the whole move, at least this initial, apparently whole move from stock RSI, the same way it dropped here. However, it kept dropping, right? So this is something not fully reliable because I think this is too low time frame, but I think it could be a confirmation that this is just a weakness bounce, because pretty much the full stock RSI move, right, has just ended in this bounce, and it's already falling again. I mentioned that perhaps retesting the 64.2, this Fibonacci level could be the next for a good confirmation, but at the same time, what I said that we wanted to see for a complete break of a structure would be breaking below, closing below here, 63.18, something like that. For now, it's been rejected, and this is the first lower low. Have that in mind, because we didn't see a lower low here. We saw it here when we finally broke below, and that was Q4 run. We didn't see lower low here, nor here, nor here, here, no here, not here. So you can see that this is a break of structure. For now, it is rejecting the daily. Let's see if it keeps bouncing because of these oversold levels, of the pressure is too big, and this is just not having a real correction for 4 months, and a higher time frame even longer could mean a complete rollover, right? It hasn't really built strong supports on the way up. That's why I mentioned in a different video that BTC dominance on higher time frame looks like pretty much the whole cycle has been like a blow of top kind of move all the way up. So if we move to the weekly, we finally have something we really wanted to see. By the way, here in the weekly, the picture looks a little bit different. Feels like for now it is holding, right? But we'll see. It's the daily there. What matters. And here we have the cross. Finally, I mentioned several times we want to see the first rollover on the daily that spills into a higher time frame. In this case, the weekly. I'm printing here. Finally, the break of the MA. We had the retest here. One week we had the retest. We might see that soon, perhaps this week, after this huge move we have seen in the last week. I mean, this week. So yes, next week perhaps we see some bounce and people get worried because that bounce means, I don't know, 15-12% drop for their altcoins, and they start doubting the whole move because again you're paying attention to, I don't know, the hourly chart, or you check the charts 30 times a day. So the day takes longer for you. You start messing around and getting confused because why isn't it pushing higher? It's because you are not letting the higher time frame act. As I said a few times, let it all play out. We have the breakout, the breakdown in this case. We saw this bearish retest and the confirmation, which was the Q4 run, right? Last time we saw something like that, October, December, until March, February, the huge run in Q2 2024. So we have to be below the MA decisively, not just chopping like in the summer, chopping everyone around with fake outs in both directions. A good sign, I said, which was one of the reasons that I mentioned I wouldn't buy these kind of charts, is that the weekly stock RSI was really, really overheated. it was at 100, the maximum, since April, whole month. And that move started the bottom in December, 4 months running. It's not the time to think that BTC dominance is going to keep running for much longer. That's what I said. I didn't really care if it extended a few more weeks, a few more days. In fact, I posted that I had the feeling that it would roll over sooner than later, and that was on April 16th. It has taken 3 weeks. Who cares? Who cares? It's there. You just have to wait. And now we got what we wanted, so let this all play. Perhaps this extend depends on the velocity and the speed of the drop. It could extend until July, June, something like that. I'm not going to try to time it like many people try to do now, in my opinion, for engagement, because no one can predict time, right? You can have hints with, in my opinion, with oscillators, right? And somehow think, okay, perhaps considering the way oscillators look, perhaps the top is near, like we did in mid-December, or like we did with the bottom in April. But now, trying to call the top, trying to time how long it's going to extend, I think that's just creating some kind of date that you have to meet, or that the market has to meet for you to act. And if it doesn't, you are confused again. But it's just you who has created that simply because you are in a hurry, or because you're impatient or tired of waiting. Just let it play and act. In my opinion, act when you see weakness. That's all we have to do now. And as I said with total 3 hinting on the monthly, that perhaps we are entering a very strong period, would be confirmed here with BTC dominance dropping. Still room to go, a lot, right? This is the current move. But the next Fibonacci level, if we really print a lower low with on the monthly, it hasn't really happened. In fact, it happened here with just a week. I believe the next target is the golden ratio, 57. And that move will be very telling. Would that be a retest of the MA and a bounce again like it did in November, right? Even if it wicked here in December, it ended the month above the MA, right? So if we see the break, that is the final boss. That is what we want to see for these kind of moves. Again, it's like in every other time frame, right? We want the break to the upside to confirm a new uptrend, and to the downside to confirm the downtrend. Again, the only bearish divergence here is with stock RSI. Like, this second move isn't really that strong. It is for RSI. No divergences here. I'm not gonna try to draw some. There is no divergence. Perhaps here, and that's enough. That's enough, perhaps, to hint that this next retest could really be it. It's been dominating the whole cycle since this double bottom, with the second bottom being a retest on the MA. This was the confirmation that BTC was back, right? This was October 2022. Bear market bottom, excellent level to add. And since then, this is kind of a blow off top. Yes, you have some corrections in between, but if you remove it and make just a line, this looks very, very explosive, right? And as long as it's above the MA, the trend continues. So we can get rejected here, and perhaps this move is just ends 60, 50 something. I don't know. This would be my next big move. 57.6, something like that. But again, we will play day by day, weekly, week by week. For now, we have the break here, and the weekly is about to close. Sorry, I'm not very sharp today. Excuse me. And I think as long as it's below 63.4, I think it is, the RSI will stay below the MA. So current levels will be big, would mean a breakout, right? A break below. Would we see kind of a retest here? I don't know. I don't really care. This is up to me. This could be the start of a change in this structure, right? This weekly has been engulfing. The time that happens, in fact, this was the only engulfing candle. This is the other one. So we can see that the behavior later is different. So this cycle, the engulfing candles haven't really been very telling, right? And here the behavior was completely different. We had a huge candles here, but then it was just all chop until they decided to fully roll over. Some chop for a few weeks here in March. Final drop until May, right? We don't know how it's going to develop. So we have to ride and see if we see something like this, if we just see another small drop, another small weekly cycle. It's impossible to tell, right? So something that could help us is USDT. My really lovely USDT chart, this is one of the two that I use, with the perfect divergence that we mentioned, marked the bottom in summer, marked the peak bottom again here in April. And I said the first target was 4.5, right? And what we see now is a perfect bounce from that level. Perfect bounce. Was expected. Why? Because it was crowded before. Resistance, chopping around here in February, trying to see if the direction is up or not. This was the final drop. Chopping here, resistance, right? This was an important level. That's why that was my first target. Does it mean I'm going to take profit here? No. No, because I played the weekly cycle. And to me, even if the daily looks like it wants to bounce again, perhaps it just bounces and gets rejected by the EMA. I don't really care, because I care about this. The weekly, again, the bounce perfect so far. Look at this weekly candle. The moment we broke below the EMA, you could even argue that this small candle was like an attempt to have a retest, perhaps a bearish retest. Complete rollover from the top here. This move has just started like it did here, right? You could argue that we are in this kind of candle here, RSI, the size of the candle, perhaps the level of the stock RSI, and then we had this big last move for 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks. It's like a 5-week drop with some pullbacks here on the daily that ended being just weeks on the weekly. I don't really care about the daily, that's why. So my first potential profit taking area is going to be 3.73, and I want to see the reaction here. Will this hold again? Like here, like March 24, like December, twice here in January as well. Or will it be lost because BTC dominance drops completely, new money comes in the forms of new ETFs approved, or loosen conditions from the Fed by easing rates or QE or whatever, and we see some crazy money inflow or rotation even from BTC, that would open the door to 250. That's my next level based on charts. High time frame level again. But for that, I would also need to check the monthly. And the monthly for USDT, what do we have? Real overheating levels, even more than here in this chop area, right? But it's also looming it's actually crossing already. So will we have just a few months, or will this really drop hard, perhaps retest this level and mark the bottom, cycle bottom for USDT and the top for crypto? We don't know. The thing is, the stock RSI was completely overheated here in April, completely oversold for BTC, and we have plenty of room to drop. We don't know how low it will go. We just have to play around. But the thing is, when we see the cross, this is the monthly again, we see huge moves. Again, acceleration. You know I've been saying that for quite some time. Below or above the EMA, acceleration normally. So this could be the candle that starts this, and perhaps we see the huge drop in June to the bottom of this range. And the reaction here will be the key to decide what we do, right? And finally, I want to take a look at SPX. Again, the markets are closed today, but last week it closed pretty much slightly above this support area. Still with an indecision candle, broke above the EMA, perhaps signaling a potential change in this downtrend. We need some confirmation for that. That confirmation would be holding, bouncing from here. To be honest, if this was dead cat bounce, I would have expected a rejection here, but perhaps this is a fake out to trap everyone, and then it goes back down. It looks like a V-shaped recovery, something that I mentioned, and I thought here it wasn't validated. Something that I mentioned that happened here, right? If we remove the indicators for a second and we open the 20 and the 50 weekly EMA, we can see that it's now bouncing from the 20 EMA. Holding both normally means continuation. This was the bear market bottom. The moment it reclaimed them, it continued here. This pullback in big correction in October held the 50, and we continue. It was really overextended for quite some time. The retest couldn't hold, and it went below, but it's reclaimed now. So this support level, together with this bounce and the new weekly cycle, RSI wise, suggests that we might be entering a new cycle, weekly cycle, right? This could really have room to grow. If we open the monthly and we go to stock RSI, again, bear market levels for stock RSI. So in terms of overheating or sentiment, it is completely down. It is completely reset. This huge week. I don't know if I have ever seen such a monthly week ever. To be honest, not even here with the COVID crash. It's insane. And the moment we have some agreement, which apparently is already on the table with China, that's the spark for continuation until the economy really, really deteriorates. If we open the RSI, what do we see? It still has work to do to be really in this strong area. This is the first time that it loses the RSI since the reclaim here in this new bull market. So there's room to work. And as I said, with BTC, for example, the monthly is already crossing, which is quite different compared to SPX, because I mentioned that back in April, BTC was showing strength against SPX, right? We can see that, and the bounce was very big from BTC, right? We can try to pretty much compare with these action wasn't seen in BTC, this SPX action. So yeah, it was stronger. That's why monthly wise SPX is behind BTC. Some people asked me yesterday if a pullback from SPX could really affect BTC, and I said that I don't think so unless there is some kind of crash, because BTC now and crypto as a whole look like they are in a different stage, right? So we go back to BTC here, we can see the monthly in a very different state. Again, the monthly here has work to do, but here for BTC is already crossing, and the stock RSI is also crossing. This looks great for continuation. I was afraid that perhaps we could see this kind of move here, like a rejection from the EMA, but the reaction has been huge for BTC in a very short time. Look at the last 2 months. insane, and weekly, body candles wise, we can see that it is already above. It is already at an all-time high, monthly wise. It's a close, right? This is huge. Obviously not a dead cat bounce. For it to be a dead cat bounce, it would have to be a rejection here, I don't know, 95 or 1, 2, something like that. We are above and crossing. Unless we have some kind of rollover and this is a fake out, everything looks great for continuation. All we have to do is just sit back, relax and enjoy. Everything we had to do was here. All the learning process was in these few months from the top. Add here at the bottom if you believe that we might come back. And we saw here in this channel that there were many reasons for a comeback. And now this is just the time to enjoy. Look at this complete reset, even lower than the 2024, the October, the summer reset. It's been higher and bigger because it went below the EMA, which was danger, right? It meant danger, but we are crossing again. So that would mean that this has been a huge opportunity, a gold entry for altcoins and for BTC. So everything looks good. Let it all play out. This candle looks beautiful from BTC dominance. I said that perhaps the bottom with Ethereum BTC would coincide with BTC dominance dropping, and that's what's happening. I mean, we have all the confluence. What else do we need? Patience. That's all we need now. We can see that we have all the breakouts and the breakdowns that we needed, and everything is going well. The levels are being here lost, and in the case of the USDT is also been lost, and in the case of Ethereum or BTC they are being reclaimed, total 3 as well. We just have to let it all play. Enjoy, sit back, don't sweat the daily swings, because if you want to see 5, 4, 6, 7, 10x for your coins, you have to endure like a 15 or 20% pullback on a day. If we have a 15 or 20% pullback, it means we have climbed really, really fast before. So just let it all unfold and enjoy. I will keep updating the moment I see something more relevant, unless this week everything goes crazy. I think the next update could be by the weekly close next week. So until then, take care. See ya.